Matt Rodda.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the honourable member for Oldham West and Royton. I have to say that I'm disappointed by this budget, although I'm not surprised by its failure to set out any meaningful change in policy. Madam Deputy Speaker, as other honourable members have said before me, this quite clearly is a broken promises budget. Austerity is not over, and there's no sign that it will be over anytime soon. Cuts to social security will continue, and there are no guarantees that other government departments won't face cuts as well. This government has presided over 8 years of economic failure. Their failed austerity agenda has deeply damaged our economy, delayed and weakened our recovery, and endlessly postponed fixing the deficit. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's important to see beyond the deliberate attempts to distract the media and voters with relatively small sums of money spent on one or two high-profile items, and frankly, I have to say that even many of these are derisory. So instead, I would like to focus on what's missing from this budget. First of all, it's significant that there are no guarantees that departments won't face further cuts, and that the Chancellor has raided capital budgets to fund day-to-day spending that makes matters even worse. Mr Deputy Speaker, the £1.7 billion promised for universal credit is less than a third of the social security cuts still to come, and the Chancellor's announcement on work allowances reverses just over half the cuts made in 2015. The rollout of universal credit has now been delayed for the 7th time, and universal credit on this measure is quite clearly failing, and it's quite clear that it needs to be scrapped. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, what about the NHS? Under the current government, the NHS has experienced the slowest spending growth in its history. The £20 billion promised is simply not enough, according to the Health Foundation. And, Mr Deputy Speaker, it's quite clear that the need for greater spending there's a need for much greater spending just to keep up with the needs of our ageing population. Moving on, what does the budget have to say about schools? The Chancellor's plans did not include a penny for the day-to-day costs for our schools, even though school funding has been cut by 8%. The little extras announced by the Chancellor will be seen by teachers and parents as a drop in the ocean and something of an insult to many hard-working teachers and children. It won't stop schools having to send begging letters to children to cover basic expenses, which in my area includes things like paper and printing. Furthermore, Mr Deputy Speaker, what about local government, policing and public sector pay? Local councils face a funding gap of £7.8 billion by 2025. There wasn't a penny for policing, even though 21,000 police officers have been cut and violent crime is on the rise. And police, teachers, nurses and doctors have no reassurance that the public sector pay squeeze will end this year. Indeed, Mr Deputy Speaker, this budget has failed to address the very real needs of my constituency. My constituents will not be helped at all by this budget. It is a budget which even fails on its own terms. The Chancellor has tried to distract us with a shower of gimmicks. This failed and divided government claims that austerity is ending when some of the deepest cuts are yet to come. The government is failing to deliver a fair economy, failing to end austerity and failing yet more to agree a Brexit deal. Indeed, it is high time they made way for a party which is willing and able to address the very real problems facing our country today.